Joe Biden just had his Charlottesville moment. That's what the media is saying. You know, you go after Israel and all of a sudden the media doesn't like it too much. Well, right now we got big news coming out of these university protests, a call for the president of Columbia to resign. And the media is saying that Joe Biden just said very fine people. Here's what happened. Joe Biden was asked, do you condemn the anti-Semitic protests? And he says, yes, but I also condemn those who don't understand Palestine. And whoa. Big mistake there, buddy. I'd like to give a shout out to our good friends over at the Huffington Post. You know, the Biden administration is now a white nationalist administration. And Joe Biden is literally Hitler. I will write that up for you. You need only send me the word and I can get that published on your platform. Or you can publish it, but I'll write it up for you. I won't really write it up for you. I'm kidding. I don't actually think Joe Biden is Hitler. I think he's just a crackpot. But here we go. He's going to get the same treatment because he's out of line with the agenda by saying such a thing. The appropriate response, Joe Biden, is, yes, Israel is good. There you go. That's all you got to say. It's an interesting predicament for the deep state. How are you going to back Democrat Joe Biden when he's actually trying to play both sides and defending what we are hearing at these universities? You need not take my word for it. Michael Rappaport has risen to the occasion with this video clip of Columbia University protesters chanting, "Burn Tel Aviv to the ground." Well, let me just play the video clip for you and you can hear for yourself. Okay, so let me tell you what they're saying there. In this video, Michael Rappaport says, these posies seem like they want war, no? In response to a statement Nina Turner put out calling these people anti-war protesters, they chanted, and this is not verbatim because it is kind of hard to hear, but you can make out the gist of it. Al-Qassam, which is the military wing of Hamas, make us proud, take another soldier out. The text they wrote isn't actually completely right. It says, we want justice, you say how. I think they said, you say justice, we say how. And they go, burn Tel Aviv to the ground. And they said something, Hamas, we love you. We support your rockets too. A lot of people don't want to believe this. I'm not here to play stupid games. They say this. They believe. You know, there was a protest in New York after October 7th. And you actually had a protester stand up saying that their resistance had sent, X many rockets into Israel. Their resistance. They're talking about Hamas. Black Lives Matter Chicago posted the paragliding trooper. They support Hamas. They're screaming, we are Hamas at this university. Now, I don't care. You say not literally everyone. The point is, this is Biden's Charlottesville moment. Donald Trump said they were verified people and not the neo-Nazis because they should be condemned totally. Trump said there were verified people on both sides. And he said, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis or the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. Joe Biden didn't do that. Joe Biden said, effectively, there's very fine people on both sides, period. These are not very fine people. These are deranged lunatics. I'm going to show you what Joe Biden says, but let me give you the context to Michael Rappaport's clip. Nina Turner said, anti-Semitism has no place on any campus, workplace, or anywhere. I strongly condemn anti-Semitism everywhere it presents itself. I am deeply troubled by the situation at Columbia University. It is irresponsible to smear peaceful anti-war, pro-peace protesters as anti-Semitic for the words of a few. As a former professor, I stand in solidarity with Columbia faculty members who are standing side by side with Columbia University students who are protesting, many of whom are Jewish themselves. By vilifying an entire pro-peace movement, those who are smearing these students are creating a space for the students to be targeted and puts them in physical danger as well as potentially ruining their future simply for protesting against genocide. Let's just pause right there. And that's the point Michael Rappaport made. By all means, I said the other day, there are certainly people with genuine grievances over the military actions of a nation, Israel. Totally fine. Criticize any country you want. That's good. You're allowed to. Anti-Semitism calls for war. I'm not a fan of those things. And so what we have now are these students supporting Hamas, calling for war, calling for burning Tel Aviv to the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden just had his Charlottesville moment. Newsweek says, President Joe Biden's latest remark about pro-Palestinian protests sparked a backlash on social media, with some saying it was Biden's Charlottesville moment. When a reporter asked the president if he condemned the anti-Semitic protests occurring on college campuses, Biden said, I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. He also added, I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians and how they're being ... Israel launched its war after Hamas's October 7th attack. This we understand. They say in the 6 months since, Israel has killed more than 34,000 Palestinians in Gaza. Full stop. That number comes from Hamas. It may or may not be accurate. I don't know. The AP reported, they say at least 2/3 of the dead are women and children, the AP reported, citing the local health ministry. I'm not here to give you moral answers on Israel-Palestine. I'm talking about Joe Biden. You can say whatever you want about those places. Students are protesting on college campuses across the country and demanding their schools divest from companies with ties to Israel. Some reports of Jewish students being harassed amid the protests have led to allegations of anti-Semitism. Students and officials at Columbia University, where more than 100 students were arrested last week after refusing to leave, have said such incidents have involved people not affiliated with the university. Biden's remarks on Monday sparked comparisons to former President Donald Trump's very fine people on both sides after a violent white nationalist rally in Charlottesville. However, what did Donald Trump say? And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. So there is a difference. Molly Hemingway says President Biden says there are good people on both sides of October 7th. Oh, here we go. Joe Walsh, a former congressman, wrote that it was bad, weak, and cowardly. Wow. Joe Walsh hates Trump. I'm sorry. This is pushing everybody towards Trump. He said, bad, weak, cowardly answer. Know the time and place. Right now, Jewish students are being harassed and threatened on college campuses. Just condemn that. Have the courage right now not to both sides the issue and condemn only what's happening to Jewish students. And he didn't. I actually agree. Joe Biden could have said, there's extremist elements that need to be called out. They should be condemned totally. If Joe Biden said, I condemn anti-Semitic protests and I condemn those who don't understand what's going on with Palestine, but to these people attacking Jews, they must be condemned totally, I'd say, well, okay, fine, I guess. The big point here is, fine. You're allowed to make more than one point. But is the media going to go after Joe Biden the same way they went after Trump? Stephen Miller, a former Trump advisor, wrote that Biden condemns opponents of Hamas. Others criticized Biden for labeling the protests as anti-Semitic when Jewish students are participating in them. Oh God, Biden just called the college protest, which all have anti-Zionist Jewish students, anti-Semitic. Howard Beckett wrote, students across campuses in the U.S. are protesting for an end to the Palestinian genocide and for a boycott of Israel. Their movement includes Christians, Muslims, Jews, and atheists. Here, Biden calls them anti-Semitic. Biden is a partner to apartheid and genocide. Well, I suppose there's no escape for you, Joey boy. The Hill. An opinion piece by Rick Scott, Senator Rick Scott. We can't trust Joe Biden, to stand with Israel and lead America on the world stage. Okay. The only problem here is that we know. And Rick Scott's a Republican. We know. So are Democrats going to finally understand? Here's what Rick Scott has to say. President Joe Biden has shown the American people that he will pander to his anti-Semitic base over supporting Israel, one of America's greatest allies and the only democracy in the Middle East. One of his first actions was to resurrect the failed Iran deal. And since then, he has greenlit billions of dollars in sanctions relief to Iran, the world's largest state sponsor of terror. His pandering can be seen in our cities and on college campuses, where radical extremists rally violently in support of Hamas and the extermination of the Jewish people. This cancer has taken over the Democratic Party and caused violence against our Jewish communities. Let me tell you something, guys. Hamas's charter contained for a long time, for a decade plus, or actually longer than that. I know they won power in the 2000s. They recently removed a provision, a line from the Hadith that says that the end will not come, that judgment will come, you will not be complete until Muslims kill all the Jews. It's crazy, right? The line is something like, the trees and the stones will yell, "O Muslim, O servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me," and then calls for them to commit atrocities. That's what Hamas wants. There's no supporting Hamas or saying we are Hamas without recognizing that. There is no reality towards the liberation of Palestine in the way the left tries to argue that it wants it. When the far left and the anti-Israel crowd comes out and says they want the end of Israel, they're being honest. That means the Jewish people there as well. There is no circumstance in which settlers, as they're referred to by these activists, will be allowed to live freely and peacefully in this territory. They'll be driven out, killed, slaughtered, etc. That's what happened on October 7th. So by all means, argue the Balfour Declaration, argue the existence of Israel. I don't care about any of that. I'm 38, not around for that. You want to talk about our current situation and our current problems? Okay. Yeah, you can't go and just kill a bunch of people. That's just it. I'm talking about Palestine or Israel. This is a big problem. Israel can't just bombard and kill civilians in collateral damage in Gaza. The left calls it a genocide. They're being silly. It's war. Genocide's very different. If you were to take the definition of genocide that the left uses and apply it to October 7th, you would have had an attempt at genocide by Hamas, and the only thing stopping them is they don't have the military strength to complete their genocide. But I'm going to tell you this. The anti-Israel people will not take any morsel. And I mean these activists at these schools, any morsel. I know people who are critical of Israel, and that's fine, and you're allowed to be. But the ardent anti-Israel activists, they go on IRL chat and they scream that we are Zionists and that we refuse to criticize Israel because even when we do criticize Israel or welcome others to criticize it, it's not enough. It's woke. It's wokeness. If you're a libertarian and you're like, hey, we shouldn't be funding this, I'm like, agreed. If you are a white identitarian, anti-Israel, leftist, whatever, these people who just don't like Jews, and they're saying things like, if you think Israel is a place, you're a Zionist. Okay, these people are insane. There are a lot of countries that did not exist 100 years ago. Israel is a country with a system of governance and millions of citizens, and it's at war. So where does it bring us now? I don't believe, with these activists that are at the universities, and many of them masquerading as moderate, Israel critical individuals, many of them just hate Jews. Sorry, I don't care. I know it's not true for everybody. I have friends who are very critical of Israel, don't want Israel funded. I don't want Israel funded. I am America first. I don't think any of that is anti-Semitic. But what I'm saying is there are a lot of people who will masquerade as such and just hate Jews. Hamas said in their charter, they want to kill all the Jews. Okay? You can't go around screaming that you're Hamas without acknowledging that. So the people at these protests, when they say from the river to the sea, what's the reality here? What would happen to Israel if they did that? In fact, the chants you heard when they said burn Tel Aviv to the ground, do you think is there an interpretation you're going to desperately try to make where they're saying, no, we evacuate the civilians first, then we raise the city and all of its property, and then we build a new one, and then what's the argument there? Burn Tel Aviv to the ground, what these people were chanting, is quite literally saying to kill the people who are there, which is predominantly Jewish, and then Christian, and some Muslim. They don't care. I don't see how you can have people protest that. And then someone comes out and goes, like we had these debates, one guy on the show saying, no, free Palestine just means like, the Palestinians in Gaza should be able to like return to their ancestral homeland. I'm like, oh, and then do what? So you think that if you remove the barriers from Gaza and tell all the people in Palestine freely move about Israel, it would just be peace? It's funny because I ask so many activists this question, I asked them, like, what would happen if we removed all the barriers around Gaza? And like, if Israel did, I shouldn't say we, but hey, the United States is involved. And like Israel removes all the barricades and says, okay, no checkpoints. It's part of you're free to move out the country, do whatever you want. They always deflect. Well, the thing is, I'm like, no. What would happen? Come on. Dude, this is not about who is right or who is wrong. It's not about whether Israel does or doesn't exist. It's about a simple question right now. If the barriers are removed and the Palestinians are allowed to go where and do whatever they want without security checks, what would happen? Massacre. So what are we supposed to do? That's not me defending Israel. That's me stating a fact. Without security and military control, many of these Hamas, Al-Qassam brigades would go and start massacring Jews. Predominantly Jews. Yes, there's going to be Christians and Muslims who get caught up in that for sure, because they live in Israel as well. Predominantly Jews. It's going to, like, this is the idea. They say, like, the chant from the left, they're saying in Arabic, is that it's from water to water, Palestine is Arab. So if they were to do away with Israel and then create free movement for all Arabic individuals in the area, what does that mean for the millions of Jews who live there? I do not believe these people are genuine when they're claiming it's going to be peace. And then you have in the Hadith, the writings, I believe, I'm not a Muslim scholar or anything, the writings of Muhammad where he says, these horrible things. Here we go. Rick Scott says, I voted for the Israel aid in this bill, only to see it fail in the Senate with all Democrats voting against it. Yeah, hold on. Republicans did too. For years, I have voted for significant funding for the Iron Dome, David's Sling, and other key military assets that help Israel defend itself from Iran-backed terrorism. I am leading the Stop Taxpayer Funding of Hamas Act to condition aid on the release of hostages and ensure that we don't send a single dollar of American taxpayer money to Gaza unless the president certifies that it won't end up in the hands of Hamas terrorists. I say no. There are hostages there. That's bad. I don't have a good answer for you. I say we don't give them any more money. I don't want to fund Israel either. I've been to Tel Aviv. Food was good. People were nice. I was there in a calm period and everything was pretty okay. Much, much nicer than Egypt or Morocco. Different countries. Whatever. Israel exists, whether anyone likes it or not. We are generations beyond. And now you have these claims by these Palestinians that, like, that land was once mine 100 years ago. Dude, look, I get it. But I tell you this, Ben & Jerry's ain't going to be giving up their factory in Burlington, Vermont. What is it, Burlington, Vermont? Is that where it is? They're not going to give that up to the Native Americans who own it. That was the funny thing. They came out and said, oh, stolen land, it should be given back. And then the Native American tribe who owned the land they're on were like, hey, that's our land. And then they were, zip. Because they're a massive corporation pandering to sell ice cream. It's stupid and disgusting. One thing I can say for this, to Rick Scott, I disagree with providing this military funding. And Democrats did vote against it. So, fine. But let me just say, we should not be sending all of our money overseas. But here's my proposition to all of you. Here's what I propose. Deep state, hear me. I say we take the entire GDP of this country and we give it to Israel. Trillions of dollars, just all of it. There you go. Obviously, you can't literally do that. But how about we give $1 trillion in aid to Israel? Sound good? Okay. One condition. First, we have to secure our borders, bring our jobs back, enact trade policy that benefits the American worker, increase wages, fix the healthcare system, lower the crime, deal with criminals, expand the rights of many people, enshrine them as they are in the You get my point. Once we deal with our problems here in the United States, I'm down to spend money somewhere else. But imagine your back door blew off in a storm and people are just coming and going from your house, taking your stuff. And you're like, well, neighbor across the street wants a loan, so I'm going to give him money. And then your family's just like, my guy, can you fix the back door first? We have no food, we have no back door, and you're giving our money away? Yep. Welcome to the state of modern American politics. We cannot trust Joe Biden to lead right now. We can't trust Joe Biden to stand with Israel and lead America on the world stage. You can trust Donald Trump to do that, and you may not like it. Donald Trump is going to be, as he claimed, the most pro-Israel president this country's ever seen. And that may be the case. I would prefer a president who stays away from foreign intervention and things like that. But I will also add this. I'm not an isolationist. I think Trump's efforts towards peace have been tremendously successful, except for Joe Biden screwing everything up. In which case, perhaps the best path forward is Trump's form of intervention would be diplomatic intervention. No new wars means a lot. Continuation of the old ones, not good, but no new wars. Maybe the best thing this country could do is elect Donald Trump and let him start negotiating. He can go to all these various countries and he can set up these peace agreements. Maybe there is a way. I mean, I really believe this. I think Trump was trying really hard to solve the Israel-Palestine thing. I wonder if the deep state wants that to be solved. A crisis is good, a rallying cry. It seems right now the Democrats hate Israel. And I have to wonder if the deep state, the intelligence agencies, also hate Israel. Which means, wow, something is subverting us, because you'd think the intelligence agencies would be 100% behind Israel. This is where we're at. Maybe the conspiracy is actually that Donald Trump is the real conspiracy. That's right. Getting all of us tricked into supporting Donald Trump by giving us this whack-a-loon, debilitated president who can't do anything right. Everything gets bad, and then Trump looks really, really good, and everyone votes for him. And then Trump enters the war on the side of Israel or something like that. Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I can only tell you this. Joe Biden's not the right answer. And our best bet right now is going to be Donald Trump. Why? He's going to improve the economy. We're going to see better numbers. We're going to see a more secure border. It's going to be better for your future. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. Certainly not. But it'll be better. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.